Hi, everyone. Welcome to Soulprint. Look, it's my favorite astrology. Hi, Kathy. She's
Hello.
back to join us. Now, we're putting this on the 25th, and she may have a thing or two to say about the whole retrograde thing that started today. But beyond that, I really like what she's going to look at and how she's going to look at it today. I think it's going to be helpful collectively, individually, and hopefully it gives us just a little bit of, clarity, insight, something. I'm going to shut up, honestly. I'm just going to sit back, drink my tea. Um, and Kathy, go ahead. For those of you who are interested, Kathy has a YouTube channel called Professional Aquarian,
Aquarian.
Aquarian. I never get that right. Um, and she does just hold on a sec. I got to talk about you for a minute. She does sort of weekly kind of, forecasts about what the energy is going to be like week by week. And I actually find them really, really super helpful. So you might want to just swing on over and check that out. But right now, hi, Kathy. You doing good?
Hello. Oh yeah,
Hi.
that's strangely. Yes.
Good.
Thank you
All
very
right.
much.
Got to do what we got to do, right? All right. Get going. I
All
hand it
right,
over to you.
everybody, the next 6 weeks, some of the most fascinating times in your life. So let me give you the framework, and this applies to you individually, to the people in your life, to what you see going on in the news, to things happening globally. Now, you may have heard of a concept of Mercury retrograde, which is it happens like 3 or 4 times a year, and it comes from a difference in the orbital speed between the Earth and Mercury. It's an optical illusion. Mercury isn't actually going backwards, but it's a do-over revisiting time. Well, what we have coming up is a double experience of this because Mercury is retrograde, and I will discuss what that means more in a sec. It's retrograde from November 25th to December 15th. And right at the end of its time, another inner planet, Mars, goes retrograde, and it will be retrograde into late February. And the two of them will actually interact during that period from December 6th to 15th. And a whole bunch of other stuff will be happening then. So just keep in your mind that weekend from December 6th into December 15th will be game changing, I think is a good way to put it. So, going back, a retrograde, an interplanet retrograde, those are the planets that are closest to the Earth, happens fairly frequently. And in both a Mercury retrograde and a Mars retrograde, these are times to go back over, reconsider, discover things that you didn't quite finish, find confusion, see where maybe you thought you were saying one thing and somebody was saying something else. They're both revisiting and do-over and taking a second look times. Both of them also have a high probability of bringing people from the past back around again in the news, in your thoughts, in your dreams. You might actually run into them. Just know if somebody from the past shows up, this is not necessarily the universe saying, let this person back in. It might be compare who you are now with who you were then, and that may be all there is. Okay. So let's start with Mercury retrograde. Mercury, cosmic messenger, planet of communication, planet of things it rules things going through the air, fast moving, how we get around. It rules the votes. It rules the media. It rules what people are saying about things. It rules conversations. Mercury is retrograding in the sign of Sagittarius, which rules international matters, foreign matters, legal matters, politics, the election in the US. But in your own life, could have something to do with your outlook on the world, what you think about things. So Mercury is stationing retrograde on the 25th and will slowly be scooching back. And then on And then I will talk in a minute about whose charts get set off by this. Let's give the framework here. First, on December 6th, the planet that rules how we push ourselves forward, our drive, our masculine impulses, the military, men, tax, stations retrograde and sits at the degree that it is for a few days. Meanwhile, Mercury is moving to where it is going to turn around. And during this period of Mars just kind of sitting there and Mercury hitting its turnaround, they'll be in an unbroken communication with each other, an unbroken link. So let's talk about what a Mars retrograde might bring and then what might easily flow from their collaborating. Mars retrograde can be a very frustrating time because Martian energy likes to move forward. You want to push forward. So there might be a sense of frustration. You might feel like you want to just cocoon. I've been telling people that the Mars retrograde, since it's in the sign of self-expression, holds the potential of being a self-paced soul retrieval. So you might find bits of yourself, pick up bits of yourself that you just kind of put in the back burner. You might rediscover things that you thought were fun before that you have not allowed yourself time for. You could revisit a lot of things from your childhood. There's kind of a Six of Cups in the tarot feel to this, a little bit of nostalgia. This particular December, this holiday season could inspire you to go back and do things that meant the holidays when you were a kid. You could find yourself baking. You could watch every TV special that you used to watch, whatever, you know, and you might just be quieter ultimately. So Mars stays in the sign of Leo until early January, and then it heads back and it's into the sign of Cancer, home, family, country, and it starts traveling backwards to territory that it visited from election day to the middle of October. And then it will start to go forward, and it may be that it's not until March when it clears this, or April when it gets back to its retrograde station in Leo. It may be that there's a long storyline playing out here throughout all of this. All right. So there are some people who have said there's going to be grand chaos around the US election because Mars was basically attacking, opposing Pluto on the day right before the election. And they were still kind of in that vibe. Mars returns to that spot at the end of December. So there's more to that story. But I'm getting way ahead of myself because we want to look at just right now. So in this period from December 6th to December 15th, Mars is starting to go back over old matters, and there can be an uncovering vibe to both of these types of retrogrades. And by December 15th, they are in an exact collaboration and it's effortless. No one has to do anything. There's just a flow. It's like a direct current. And one way of looking at this is whatever information is uncovered during the Mercury retrograde, Mars then goes and does something with it. It could be that whatever is already uncovered from the Mars retrograde gets passed on to Mercury and it is communicated. At the same time, there's a whole bunch of other stuff happening. Right when Mars is going retrograde, the period from like the 5th, 6th, and 7th, the planet that rules money, the planet that rules women, the planet that rules what we value, moves into the sign of Aquarius, the collective, technology, the future, and meets Pluto in Capricorn. This sets an imprint for the next 20 years. Pluto rules so Venus rules what we desire, kind of like intellectually. Pluto rules what our cells tell us we really want. And both of them rule money, because Venus is kind of like, I'd say it's mere mortal levels of money, and Pluto is huge. Or you used to have the word plutocrat. Remember that? Anyone remember that? Now we call them oligarchs, but it used to be plutocrat, really, really, really wealthy people. So there could be something involving the collective, involving values, involving women, involving what community you get really clear on you want to have something to do with. You might have personally noticed that the people that you feel right with have been undergoing a change. Like there's some people that are moving into history, some people that you just don't have anything to talk about with anymore, and then new groups of people where you just sort of vibe with. I've been saying, I've been going to seemingly frivolous events that have had complete strangers interacting like they've known each other forever, like singing songs, singing complex songs, and trading off the parts without discussing who's going to take what part. And each time I say out loud, I actually voice it. This is the world I want to live in. So you may get a real strong taste of that when this happens. But again, women, the collective, empowerment. Just remember that that is happening at the same time. The Mercury retrograde will be having a really critical moment. There's a time when Mercury meets the sun. It's called a cazimi. They basically fuse. You get incredible mental clarity, something that maybe you didn't see one way. Suddenly it's there. Clarity, incredible clarity, and knowing from whatever Mercury's retrograde journey has been throwing across your path. So, incredible
When is that?
clarity.
Is there a date for that?
The
To
Cazimi is,
write it
it's
down?
the 5th. I think it's the 5th. But just know that the 5th, 6th, and 7th, it's all kind of like one big clump.
Right.
One
Okay,
big
got it.
clump, all right? So, something locking into, I know my mind, I know me, I know this, whatever this is, for each of us, it's clear. But it also involves the bigger Mercury retrograde journey that's going on. So we got that. Then we've got this empowerment of a collective, empowerment of values, something that kind of transforms, could involve a woman, could, maybe not, but could. And there's one more really big thing happening. There's an outer planet retrograde that is going to change directions, and it's a really critical one. Now, outer planets go retrograde every year. The outer planets, the ones at the far end of the solar system, spend about half of the year retrograde, and so we don't normally notice what they're up to. But this one is Neptune. This one is the cosmic fog machine. This one is the bringer of confusion and lack of clarity and gaslighting. And this one was in an aspect to the moon, the public, on election day in the US that just created clouds of confusion. So Neptune stations direct on it's all at the 6th and 7th. The 6th. Okay, so all this big stuff happens on the 6th. But it's going to all be one thing. Now, Neptune, you can think of it as a huge ocean liner, just barely changing direction. It's not going to happen quickly. It's going to start to float in a direction, but there could very well be, with incredible clarity, this Venus Pluto wham, something just becoming crystal clear, and then Neptune dispelling clouds. And then very soon after that, Mars and Mercury going, hey, hey, we have something for you. Uh, this is huge, actually. This is pivotal. And a colleague of mine with whom um, I've been doing with two other astrologers, we've been doing some political readings on YouTube. So Louise Eddington really loves asteroids, she knows much more about them. And she points out that Ceres, Ceres, the word cereal comes from that, Mother Earth energy, also is part of this Venus-Pluto conjunction. So it's in on it as well. So there is the potential here for something that is like the matriarch, the mother, the nurturing energy, the planet saying, hey, I want to continue existing. Big, big, big stuff over that long weekend, right when December is starting. And then we move on it. And then know that there's some level of certainty and calm coming because of other aspects around December 24th. Interesting date, right? And then some re-looking, revisiting by the end of the year. And then certain individuals will have things coming back at them in March, in February and in March because of actions taken in October. Now, let me fill in a few things. The Mercury retrograde starts on a very important point in Trump's chart. On his south node, which is his default behavior, it's what he does when anything's under pressure, and his moon, which is his emotional driver. And it's in Sagittarius, which is real high flying, international overtones, and it's in the part of his chart that deals with his home, which could be as literal as Mar-a-Lago. And we know that there were meetings with foreign leaders while he was there. So who knows? There may be a piece there. There may not be a piece there. We'll see. That's part of it. It also starts on Mars, how you push yourself forward in the chart of Peter Thiel, who is the person who put J.D. Vance onto that ticket. So that's an important piece to know. And the Mars retrograde starts on the U.S. North Node. Now, the North Node is it's a mathematical point. You don't see it in the sky, but it's your path of destiny. It's where you're headed. And the U.S. has the North Node at 6 degrees Leo, which is grandstanding, huge leader quality. It's kind of like why our personality dominates so much in the world, I'm sorry to say. And there's something that's really, really pivotal to the role and the future of this country in whatever the Mars retrograde uncovers. And it will go back to, again, if there was an attack around the time of the election and who it came from. And there are many theories floating around. So maybe there was, maybe there wasn't, but we do know that there were bomb threats coming from Russian email addresses. Who knows? So just know, if you've been thinking, this doesn't make sense, you may start getting pieces of information, may actually slip into the media that make you go, you're right, it doesn't make sense. So just know that there's a lot more to the story, and December is going to be insanely active. And remember, you have a life, and all of these things are happening to you as well. So what do you get to go rethink, rediscover, rework, revisit, finish? Always good for year-end stuff. What's lingering? What have you not dealt with? This is a good time to go deal with it. It is not the best time to go launch something absolutely brand new. Next phases in something that's already underway, no problem. But if you have I think this is the time I'm going to start, and you think of something that you have never done before, you maybe put that off until next year. 2025 is much more geared toward pioneering, trailblazing endeavors. This is really cleanup time, big cleanup time. All right, I just threw a whole lot at you. What are your questions?
Lots and lots. How does this impact certain political players?
Well, okay, so it's very personal to Trump. It's very personal to Vance's backer. Um, I don't think it directly hits. This is not directly in Putin's chart. Um, but since Mars does rule war, there are many other things that could be playing into this. There could be stuff having to do with, we know that there's a huge conflict in the Middle East, and that's been, well, there are conflicts all over the world, but there are two that have been really, really on every, forefront of everyone's mind. I do know that this hits Zelensky's chart. This hits President Zelensky's chart, the Mars retrograde. So maybe I know that President Biden is shoving the rest of the funding over to Ukraine, so that could be a factor in this. Um, there's probably, with Mercury being in the sign of international relations, there's probably a huge international global component to a lot of the information or the rethinking or the redoing that will be going on. So it's kind of like giant geopolitical stuff, really critical occurring with all kinds of things between the 5th, 6th, and 7th of December that make you go, whoa, man, okay, fine. Great clarity.
So it sounds like we're in for and just so you guys know, Kathy and I set up this date weeks and weeks ago to do this recording. Um, just because it just felt like it was going to be a time where, people might need reassurance, whatever, but this was done prior to the election. So she's been working on, my point is she's been working on this for a while. She knows what we're looking for, and she has taken into consideration kind of the shocking, frankly, turn of events that we are all trying to process and deal with. So I've just noticed lately that Trump has been more bombastic than normal. And his little people around him are, anybody who ever worked on anything connected to going after Trump should be fired. That kind of ridiculous sort of messaging. Is that something that we can anticipate is going to continue being around him as we move through the next 6 weeks, 12 weeks, like that period? Like, do we have to
I'm
keep listening to him?
Well, first off, don't. Secondly, there on election day, the reason some people said, "Oh, he's going to be the president," is Jupiter, which expands everything, and many people think it's an influence of beneficence and good fortune. To me, it's the guy that just, I say he ups the ante of any action that he's near, just whatever it is, it gets bigger. It was sitting on his sun, but it was retrograde on his sun. And that to me said, over the top, cartoonish. We're just going to have, and aren't we watching absolute overreach? Absolute, like, really? You want somebody who's on the TSA watch list to handle our national security information? Yeah, sure. That makes all the sense in the world. So it's let me see when Jupiter is going to go direct, because that will change a few things. Get my cheat sheet. I can't remember everything. Jupiter. And it goes direct in February. Well, okay. So the thing to know is there's this stabilizing influence on Christmas Eve. And it's an echo of an influence that was present on August 19th, 2024, which is when the Democratic National Convention started. And I am seeing the potential in this. It is a square, which is a demand for action between Jupiter, which just says more, 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 and Saturn, which says, no, you don't. So there's something that is going to collapse parallel storylines into one. And yes, there'll still be a lot of tumult. around the turn of, there's still, January could still be nuts in its own way, but things are going to start to coalesce into a cohesive, there's one reality instead of these two realities running parallel. I don't know if anyone has had that sensation. Like there's this whole other reality out there that's making all this noise and it has nothing to do with my experience of life. You know what I'm talking about?
So this is sort of just a really basic question, but I think it would be helpful for all of us to just get a bit of a refresher course. So this Pluto into Aquarius, it's like 20 years long. It's a process. I like the analogy, although I don't think you were applying it to this, the analogy of a ship making a turn. Because if you've ever been on one, it's a really slow process. So So my understanding would be that a lot of the shifts and changes that we're going to have accomplished by towards the end of the 20-year period um, are going to be things that have started now. Can you give us a heads up on what things are most likely to be impacted, not only personally, but collectively and politically? Just the influence of that Pluto into Aquarius.
Well, let's look briefly at what happened the last time it was there. It last moved into Aquarius while, okay, it coincided with the start of the French Revolution, with people storming the Bastille, with, and very early into its time. I think 1789 was a pivotal year in this. And I can't remember his name. There was a philosopher in France who wrote a treatise that basically created the concept of democracy. And uh, it was bloody, it was horrible. The citizens turned on each other, all that stuff happened. But what came out of it was a leveling of power between the wealthy, really, really wealthy, and the really poor, and it created a middle ground. So thing one, democracy. Thing two, the concept of the middle class. Thing three, industrial revolution. Thing four, U.S. Constitution written during all this. So while the U.S. had been at war, gaining its independence, the U.S. Constitution was written during this. So likely there will be changes in the relationship of the middle class and the like five wealthiest people on the planet who are basically right now attempting to call the shots for everyone. The role of technology and AI will be huge. There is another influence coming next summer that will duck in, duck out, duck in again, that will play the ruler of Aquarius, which is Uranus, will move into Gemini, the sign of communication, and be in a direct current with Pluto for a couple of years. And I have said, I said to one of my colleagues on camera, we're going to have a new form of internet. And she went, how could it change? And I went, I don't know, but there'll be massive changes in how we deal with each other online. And I will point out that the exodus from the platform formerly known as Twitter just spiked when Pluto made its final move into Aquarius, and everyone started running to blue sky. Now, whether that stays or not, who knows? But running from what had been the global exchange place, information place, into another one, which may or may not turn into it. So there will be changes in how we communicate with each other, changes in technology, um, changes in how communities interact, how they work together. Some of you may have noticed, may have experienced new groups figuring out ways they're going to do things for each other. I've been seeing lots of stuff about mutual aid societies, but even beyond that, uh, communities, collectives forming, and it will be of individuals with their own unique talents and gifts kind of running alongside each other, doing things together. So those are a few of the things I see happening. We may ultimately have big changes in international borders. We might move much more toward countries banding together in confederations, like the NATO concept, but getting bigger and bigger. I expect Brexit will be reversed with this. Things like that.
So, a lot's going to be happening. It sounds like certainly between now and the middle of January, there's going to be, a lot changing, a lot shifting. There's going to be chaos. There's going to be confusion. And so everybody should take their vitamins now because it's, and I'm thinking like December 6th is like not this weekend, but next weekend. It's like
It's
right
close.
around the corner. So I think though it's important to keep that in mind, given the kind of information that Kathy has shared with us in terms of what we can expect around that period of time. Can you just give me a quick look-see on how Biden and Kamala are going to be over this period of time? It's so strange to me that everything is so quiet. I mean, she's just like, when you see him, it's like he's okay, well, this is what happened, and we're going to go along with it, and this is fine. And like, he's a Scorpio, there's got to be a sting in there somewhere, right?
He has four
What's going on
planets.
there?
He has 4 planets in Scorpio, and 3 of them are in the 12th house, which is behind the scenes. The man works much better behind the scenes. His birthday chart for this year, his solar return chart, has him all year long. So November of this year, well into the end of next year, um, stepping out, being forward, being a fighter, pulling off strategic things, fighting for the US destiny. His Mars in the solar return chart is on the US North Node. So um, just and Pluto, now that it's moved into Aquarius, is in an activating aspect to his emotional driver, to his moon. He I always like to say about him, I would never bet against a Scorpio in a cage match. And if you look at photos of him the day that Trump came to the White House, there are photos where he has this, just look at the quality of his grin. You cannot tell me that a man who has dedicated decades of his life isn't doing something. And he doesn't tip his hand until he's ready to act. Remember when the newspapers and all kinds of people were saying, get out of the race, get out of the race, get out of the race. And then suddenly he announced he was getting out of the race and he handed over it to Kamala. And then bam, things started happening. Replay coming. Very, very likely. And as for her birthday chart for this year shows her whole purpose is leadership. Her whole purpose is political leadership. We'll see, we'll see. And I will say, so everyone can say, oh, okay, so she's Looney Tunes. But I mentioned that the December 24th stabilizing influence, and stability can mean having the boot come down on you, right? I'll be honest about that. But stabilizing influence ties to August 19th, 2024, when the Democratic National Convention started and she got the nomination. This tied into her chart directly. She has a change agent signature that many people born in the mid 60s have. But Venus, her planet of values, how she relates to people, is also part of it. So it tied into it. And the Venus part was directly hit. When we get to December, her change agent part is directly hit, like something breaking loose. And January 20th, Saturn and Venus are together at the top of the chart. Leader and a woman, I don't know. Could be a woman being completely put down, stifled, but I showed this to another colleague of mine in September, and he went, "Whoa, looks like a woman president." I went, "Does to me too." So we'll see. We'll see. So my point in all of this is the fact that you're not hearing stuff in the news doesn't mean there isn't something going on. There have been two FBI searches or raids or search warrants involving people with technology and crews that have a cybercrime contingent. One of which was the betting platform that matched that 7 days before the election had an electoral map that's actually what played out. So just watch for hints, watch for the debris to start floating up, and listen to your gut. I know so many people who had visceral dread in 2016, and I was one of them, who are inexplicably calm. I would suggest that you stop feeding whatever this narrative is out there, and we're moving into the holiday season. Please be with people you care about. Please get your own home set up. I bought staples. I bought 3 months worth of staples this weekend. I don't usually stock food up. I don't know why I did that. Maybe they're just going to be horrendous snowstorms where I live. That's possible, but do whatever you feel guided to do to tidy up your part of the world. Have you been meaning to write your will? Please do it. Have you been meaning to give people information about where all your stuff is? Please do it. I have a meeting later today where I'm handing a folder over to someone with exactly that, where everything is, what to do, powers of attorney, you name it, whatever it is for you. And please find the glitter, the sparkle, the moments of joy. Find the part of reality that is the world you want to live in and just be there. You're actually doing good for the rest of us if you do that, because you are pumping up the vibe. Feeding more despair into this situation is actually not going to do anybody any good.
I absolutely agree. It's really easy to sort of spiral down that to that place where everything's horrible. It's going to be a disaster or a world's imploding. And that's a very opposite energy that we're trying to focus on and look at right now. I think that is a really lovely place to sort of wrap this up with. Now, before we do that, just before we started recording, I re-asked questions that I keep on asking with my pendulum. So if you saw Pendulum Friday this week, you be quiet, Alice. I was saying that something was in flux because all of a sudden I was these really bizarre like answers I wasn't expecting. So I'm pulling it out. We're gonna do it one more time, and then she can verify these are exact. Let's hope I get the same answers, eh? So she can verify the different ones I got before this. Okay, so she's ready to go. Here we go. Is Kamala Harris going to be inaugurated as the next president of the United States? And that is a yes. Is Donald Trump going to be the next president of the United States? It's a no. Is Donald Trump going to move into the White House? Nah. Thank God he had really tacky taste. And is Kamala going to move into the White House? There you have it. I know not. But I can't help but think that maybe part of the reason those energies were in flux was because last week there was so much insanity going on with who he was going to put into key positions. I think that what that did was that just created an increase of sort of panic, and the pendulum was responding to that, because y'all got to remember, pendulums respond to the energy right now. They don't tell you in 3 years, this is going to be the energy and that's what's going to happen. So I kind of think that something was going on there that just moved things around. So I'm very pleased to see that it's gone back to the answers that it keeps on giving us. Please check out Kathy's YouTube channel, and she has a bunch of other things, and I'm gonna let her list them all off on all the different places and spaces that you can find her. Please do that.
My main website is empowermentunlimited.net. I have a podcast that's about 10 minutes for every week. I have a forecast for every new moon and full moon and for every month because I have this urge to share. And these are double, they're also recorded and they're at my YouTube channel, Professional Aquarian. Lately, I have been doing political collaboratives with 2 other astrologers, and they're cross-posted. They're on her site, Cosmic Owl Astrology, and then mine. And we've got one that'll be up on Wednesday the 27th, and then again December 2nd, and at the end of the week. So 7th, 3rd, 6th. Woo, that'll be tons of fun. St. Nicholas Day. We'll see what the good saint has brought us. And if you go to my YouTube channel, Professional Aquarian, and hit about, you'll get links to everywhere I am. I am many places. I have a Patreon. I have a Facebook group where we talk about what things in the news that are actually playing out astrological symbolism. It became political a long time ago. I didn't. Anyway, it's not just political. We look at charts of important
Awesome.
people, what they pass, and that kind of thing.
So there's lots of options there to get a little bit more of Kathy and her particular brand of calming astrological logic and knowledge, which is why I like her so much. She doesn't confuse me with things. All right.
Great.
Questions, comment section for Pendulum Friday. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I could not be more grateful. Fear not, I will bring her back because I think that just her insights are a really helpful thing for this space and this community. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And for everybody else, take good care, be well. We'll see you soon. Bye for now.